Welcome to a design tutorial on how to make a plan. Now, making a plan is an important part of being a designer, and it doesn't matter what industry you're in or what product you're making. You'll always need to make a plan, and making a plan for to achieve your goal is very, very important. So there's many different formats and a variety of ways that we can make a plan, but the most important thing to remember is that it's about communication. The word plan is interchangeable with the word drawing, and plans can communicate across borders and across languages. And it's really important that we understand that plans need to be read by other people and or understood by other people so that we can have products made. Now, this video is mainly focused on MYP Year 4-5 students. However, constructing a plan goes in any curriculum or in any design situation. So in this case, the MYP criteria suggests that we need to make a logical plan. It needs to describe efficient use of time and resources. And these words are important because if you make a plan and you're not efficient, you're going to go out of business as a designer and or a maker. And it needs to be sufficient for peers to be able to follow and be able to understand it and create your solution. So I thought we'd start off with actually looking at what a bad plan is, because there are several bad plans around there in the world, and here's an example of a bad Lego plan. Now, Lego is known for its plans and known for the genius plans that they make. They're very, very good. Everyone can follow them, and they're very, very good. But knockoff Lego doesn't take quite as much pride in the construction of their plans. And that may be an indication of the attitude in construction and making. Because if you've copied something, then you're not so willing to spend the time in order to make a legitimate and well thought out plan. And so I made this afternoon, and it was terrible. I was very, very frustrated. Steps are not in, there's many steps in one window instead of single steps. And so it's very, very difficult to follow. And so you have a plan like this, you can end up being very, very frustrated. And you can see here someone who's been very unhappy about a plan. And this is exactly what happens when plans are not made. But it's not going to be only make you unhappy, it's going to lose you a lot of money, and or your product's not going to come out well. So the more time and effort you can put into planning, the better. So there's some examples of bad planning. Let's have a look at a good sort of plan here, and a good Lego plan. We've got all the parts listed, okay, and that's at the back of the book. You probably don't look at that a whole lot, but then in the actual making of a good Lego plan, there's just one step. It's listed all the parts that you need in that steps that clearly demonstrates one step, 1, 2, 3, and then you put it into place. So a good plan is logical, it's easy to follow, and it communicates with you incredibly well. It has good affordance. And affordance means that the product actually communicates with you in some way how it's to be used. But a plan needs to communicate with you in some way as well. So here's another example, and it shows arrows for how these things should go in. And I like to talk about Lego plans when we're talking about planning, because often we think of plans as just written documents, but drawings are very, very important in plans. And I would encourage you to include drawings in your plan. So, in a summary, a plan is about communication at its core. But I really want to also highlight that it's not just about meeting some academic requirement. If you don't plan, you can't do things very well. So I want to talk to you about planning in the real world a little bit. So here's a staircase that my dad and I designed, and I'm very proud of this staircase. And you can see here we're working on the staircase. We're using different tools and different materials. We had to sort out different ways of doing it because many people told us we couldn't do this, we couldn't build walls that are curved. But we just need to use different materials, and instead of using a 10 millimeter gyprock, we use 2 layers of 5 mil gyprock so we could bend it round. Nobody wanted to have this idea of nude stair tread ends on the end with no riser, what they call a riser on a staircase. They said, no, you can't do that. And I had quotes for this staircase that were in the tens of thousands of dollars, but it didn't need to cost that much if you put some real planning into it. Here you see my father and a friend of ours, and they're measuring things. So you need to measure and carefully adjust as you're going through the plan. This part of the staircase, the balustrading, it couldn't be constructed until the actual stairs were there. So it was built after. So you need timelines, you need to think about materials, you need to know when those materials will be needed. These step treads, they all were individual pieces, they all had to be individually cut, and they also had to have a second piece, biscuit jointed in. And so this took a lot of work, but it came about because of a lot of planning and a lot of predicting what would go wrong at what times, and how can we overcome that by some problem solving skills. So one way that we can show a plan in our documentation that we submit as students is that we can show a Gantt chart. Okay, and a Gantt chart is just like a spreadsheet, and it's got coloured in boxes. And this one's a good example because it's got people who are going to do things at certain times. So it brings a level of accountability to it. And if you walk into any professional services company, like a big engineering company that's building a big set of bridges on a highway or something, you'll see big Gantt charts up on the ceiling, above doors and things, where people can actually check what's going on at given times in the project, so that they can get the project finished on time. And a Gantt chart would be very, very helpful for companies when they're building things, because often there might be a penalty for running over time. Okay, so you have to build in unforeseen circumstances like rain and or products not being available, etc. So at this stage, Ken needs to go and get nails because he needs to use the nails down here or something. Okay, so it's really important that we think long term. Here's a couple of examples of student-made plans. You see these are a little bit more simple. We haven't got names and things, but we've got the dates, and so we know that we have a good and fair chance of actually making and reaching our goal. Because if we don't put these dates down, we don't actually estimate how much time we have, and we won't necessarily get there. And products and businesses live and die by they're planning and they're getting products to market before the competitor does. Okay, another one there, just a bit of fancy colour, but you see you've got steps down the side here, and then the dates as we go along. Let's take a look at some examples of some plans. Here's one. There's probably way too many words in here, but we've clearly got some steps down the side here. We've got the fact that we need this equipment, and it's going to be estimated time is here, and that we're thinking about safety at different points. And the part that I really wanted to show you on this one is that this plan has attempted to get some peer feedback, some feedback that helps them know that it's legitimate. Because a plan needs to maybe go through some iterations as well, because you might show it to someone and say, I don't understand that, and in which case you need to go back to the drawing board. So here's where we get to really see the components of a plan in many regards. We've got the process, we've got the steps. So this is a description of what's happening at that stage of the plan. Okay, I'm going to weld up the sides of the step treads, etc. This is actually for a flat pack chair, this plan. So we've got materials and software that we might be needing to be used at that moment. We've got an estimation of time. We've got factored in safety, and I really like this one. We really need to have quality. Now, we might not fill in all these boxes all the time, but we do need to be thinking about all of these aspects of a plan. Here's another plan for a flat pack chair. So we got sort of categories here down the side: finishing, manufacturing, assembling, detailing. These are all sort of the categories that you'll find down here. You've got process and details of the steps, you've got safety, tools and materials that you might need, time required. And then on the next page of this plan we see a rough Gantt chart as well. Doesn't need to be too fancy, but we've also then got some details and a little bit of feedback on our plan in here. I'd like to show you some plans now in sort of some different formats. So here's there's an evaluation of the plan here, and we've also got some feedback on the plan at the start of this one here. And once again, too much writing here, but we've got safety check, quality checks, etc., and possible problems and solutions that you might need. It's really important to try and have some possible solutions to problems that might come up, because this is the sort of thing that successful business people do. Now, you only have limited time, limited, page space with a plan, so you need to think carefully sometimes about how much you're going to put on, and I'm telling you a lot here, so it's going to be hard to fit everything in. You might, talk about the things you're needed in this sort of format: tools, equipment needed, modifications to the design, and then you might follow a format where you say step 1, and you might just make some boxes like this: tools required, detailed process, time required, safety, and then you might just cut and paste that down several times and then fill in the steps. Okay, so you can go through a plan like that and outline the making of the product. So in this plan we can clearly see there's some modifications to the design. We're talking about the materials, all the software we need, sizes, and then we've got another sort of set. This is similar to the last one. We've got detailed process, estimated time, and whether it's a priority or not. So another good example of a previous student of mine, their plan and well-constructed plan. The plan also comes up in the rest of criterion C, and during the making stage you need to justify changes to the plan in some way, because a plan, you can never think of everything that's going to happen, but the more you can think and the more you draw, the more you plan, the more easily your create stage will go. So this is another way. This is just documenting the actual construction process, and so suddenly there's been changes that. So a plan is really important throughout the construction stage of anything, and I hope I've shown you that through the example of the staircase being built, and all the skills that you need at different points. You need to learn how to weld, you need to learn how to put timber together, you need to investigate glues, you need to do all these things that you might have included in an investigation, and then you need to predict when they would come in. There's two more strands, though, that we might just consider as part of the plan, because the word actual plan comes up in both of these, is that you need to justify that that you've followed the plan and it functions as it is intended. That the solution functions as intended, and that will happen because you followed the plan. And then also that you fully justified changes, which is what I showed you on that last slide. So I hope that helps you know how to make up a plan, and work hard and good luck.